As soon as the Earth is cut in half, almost all living creatures will come to an end. An apocalypse will begin, which has not been shown in movies. The atmosphere is damaged, the magnetic field will change, and the planet's landscape completely alters. But the planet will be completely renewed, and life, like a phoenix, will be reborn from the ashes. A super powerful laser would be needed to separate the planet. Such a laser has to receive energy directly from the sun. The weapon goes into space on a rocket, thousands of miles above our world. Then, once the laser arrives at its destination, it opens wide to expose plates of solar panels. The laser absorbs and concentrates the sun's rays. Then a powerful energy beam with the diameter of several cities shoots into the middle of the planet. Oceans through which the beam passes boil and evaporate from the high temperature. These vapors turn into a vast thundercloud in the sky. A strong wind drives these clouds over the continents. Heavy rain falls, which floods not only cities, but entire countries. As the tectonic plates shift, tsunamis are created. Huge waves crash onto the shore. The Earth is split in two. And this is just the beginning. The structure of the Earth, or rather, each half of it, is changing. Strong earthquakes occur all over the world. The worst disasters happen near the fault line. Billions of tons of ground are smashed. Massive landslides drag entire cities below. Chunks of land, thousands of miles in size, shoot away from our planet. All living creatures on these pieces of land fly into outer space. Other broken pieces of the planet land on the half that is closest to them. Imagine a huge rock the size of a whole city falling from the sky, and there will be hundreds or thousands of such stones. Those who live far from the cut site have a chance to survive. But even there, earthquakes will destroy houses. The moon will also start to throw off pieces from itself. These pieces, like a meteor shower, will fall onto the Earth halves and create massive explosions. These explosions will create fires. The skies will be covered with ash, and until it settles, we won't be able to see the sun. Both parts of the planet are drifting away from each other. The red-hot heart of our Earth is right in the center between the two. This is the Earth's core, consisting of molten metals. Each half of the core exudes energy comparable to a star. Between the two parts of the planet, a layer of such hot space is created that nothing can survive there. Any item that falls into this space immediately turns into ashes. The mass of the core is much larger than the ground mass, so there's a higher level of gravity. The core sucks in everything that comes close. You can't travel from one part of the Earth to the other. The core's gravity attracts any shuttle. Each half of the Earth now lives on its own. Typically, the core inside our planet rotates and creates the Earth's magnetic field. This field is a shield that protects us from the sun and space. If the shield is damaged, solar and cosmic radiation passes through the atmosphere. Because the core is divided into two parts, the Earth's magnetic field becomes unstable. Power outages begin in both parts of the planet. Microwaves, TVs, kettles, traffic lights, computers, everything is broken. The screen of your laptop or phone starts turning on and off. The video may freeze and the battery runs out and charges in 1 second. Satellites stop working, which means there will be no more GPS. High-frequency radio waves used for communication stop working, which means you can't make calls and send texts. In fact, all power plants may sink underground or be flooded because of the earthquakes, so there might not be electricity at all. Some people are sensitive to solar storms and experience severe headaches. When the magnetic field is damaged, the surviving people and animals will suffer from severe migraines. Scientists will have to invent special helmets to protect people from the sun. For full protection, people will have to live in underground cities. Compass needles no longer point north. They just spin in different directions. The birds go mad. They don't know where to fly to wait out the winter, because the south no longer exists for them. All animals stop migrating. In the sky, planes can't navigate. Plants and flowers can't grow naturally thanks to the increased radiation from the sun. Livestock are poorly fed. The quality of products deteriorates. There's famine. The main goal for people on each half of the planet is survival. In some places, closer to the fault, the Earth's atmosphere is completely damaged. The conditions there will be similar to those in space. There is no air or heat. Only in a spacesuit can you stay in this territory. Unfortunately, you won't be able to jump and fly because gravity still works. Besides, it's gravity that becomes the salvation of our planet. Both parts of the Earth won't fly away from each other because of the force of gravity. Instead, they will rotate and start to attract each other. In 100,000 years, both parts of the planet will reconnect once more, and the Earth will be completely renewed. Since the core is molten metal, it will return to a single heart, but it will take much longer to connect the solid rock of the halves. A scar forms along the entire fault. The scar will be overgrown with forests and flooded with oceans, but there will be strong earthquakes in some places near this scar. By this time, all living things have probably disappeared. On our planet, conditions are about the same as 4.5 billion years ago. Seas and oceans boil, lightning strikes everywhere, tectonic plates change their shape, and lava flows from volcanoes in a rapid stream. The Earth looks like a vast boiling pot, inside which life is gradually created. Because the Earth has decreased in size and the core hasn't changed much, the gravity will be different. On land, it will be more difficult for an ordinary person to walk. They will weigh much more. In such conditions, new, previously unknown life will be created. Today, the world's atmosphere and oceans are polluted, the population is increasing, and glaciers are melting. In the future, things could be much worse for our planet. In 1,000 years, when humanity has mastered space travel, we may decide to change our residence. We'll start looking for other Earth-like planets, and maybe we'll find something. However, nothing compares to our first home, and humanity decides to cure it. Perhaps we'll come up with the idea to divide the planet in half and live on one side. And after 100,000 years, we can come back to a new healthy home. What if you divide other planets? Since they don't have a magnetic field, they won't be as affected. For example, Venus and Mars have no seas, oceans, or lakes. Some scientists think they're entirely dried up because the magnetic field has disappeared there. This led to the complete destruction of the atmospheres of these planets. The solar wind blew across their surface with such force that it dried up all the liquid. The Earth's atmosphere reflects this wind, so thankfully, we're safe. There would be no significant cataclysms on other planets, except for earthquakes. Like Earth, the two parts of each world would simply rotate until they reconnect once more.
Earth. Home. The third blue rock from the Sun. The only known planet where life can thrive. We have around 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 1% argon, water vapor, and carbon dioxide, give or take. The perfect balance to support our respiration. The troposphere is the lowest and densest part of Earth's atmosphere, 5 to 9 miles thick. It's the part of the atmosphere that keeps changing our weather. For any life to exist, we would need this atmosphere and the same combination of gases to breathe. If all the planets in our solar system were combined to become a mega-Earth, then humans wouldn't have evolved the way we are today, and we'd have a very different planet. If we take the landscape of Mars, we'll only have solid land without large bodies of water. Earth is the only planet in our solar system with bodies of water. One of the first wonders to see will be Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. It towers Mount Everest by a long shot at 78,000 feet above the ground. Valles Marineris is a group of canyons that make the Grand Canyon in the U.S. feel like a average one. This wonder stretches for almost 2,500 miles and goes more than 4 miles deep. On top of these epic terrains, there's plenty of other grand-scale locations on Mars that are way bigger than the ones on Earth. The planet might be as large as Jupiter. If the Earth were the size of a grape, then Jupiter would be the size of a basketball. We'd have the size of Jupiter and the rings of Saturn floating around us. The rings may seem like some large chunks of rock in the air, but they're actually ice particles and chunks of iced rocks. They range from the size of pebbles to car-sized ones. Saturn's rings are supported by the unique gravity in the region. With a lot of these ice rocks floating in the sky, there won't be much sunlight entering the planet, which means the planet will always be colder than usual. Not to mention the many moons it has. Our megaplanet could also have many moons circling above us, contributing to the tidal waves. Jupiter is known for the red spot, a place twice the size of Earth that has hurricane-like storms that have been going on for hundreds of years. The people of Mega-Earth will settle far away from it. Mercury is a planet, but looks like the Moon due to all the craters lying around. That's because of many asteroids and comets striking it over billions of years. But the landscape here mainly consists of mountains, highlands, cliffs, and valleys. The Caloris Basin is almost 1,000 miles wide. They believe it was formed by a comet. The deserts on Earth are mainly hot and consist of dunes of sand, but they also have flat plains and small hills. The largest desert in the world is the whole Antarctic continent. Mercury has no atmosphere to trap any heat, so it gets really hot when the sun is facing it and freezing cold when the planet turns away from it. On this combined mega-Earth, the desert will most likely have a similar landscape to that of Mercury. The animals living here will probably be something like giant scorpions and desert snakes that soak in some sun during the day and go out hunting at night. But the soaring day temperatures would melt anyone walking. And even though Mercury is the closest planet to the Sun, it's not the hottest. Venus has temperatures of nearly 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Scientists believe that the lands here are flat because of the extreme temperatures, but it's not all flat, with some volcanoes and highland areas. We can probably find this terrain and climate near the equator, since it's always hot there. Humans can't live there unless they build special domes to sustain life. But since the planet is now huge, not all its territory needs to be populated. Some areas will have the proper atmosphere for breathing, but some places might not have such luxuries. Over at the poles, the climate will most likely mimic Pluto's, even though it's not technically a planet anymore. In 2006, they officially declared it a dwarf planet, and it's even smaller than the Moon. There's not much known about this little mini floating rock, except that it's composed of around 70% rock and 30% ice. Scientists believe that a part of its surface is covered in frozen nitrogen, solid methane, and carbon dioxide. Since the megaplanet is huge, gravity might be quite strong here. Jupiter's gravity is enough to double your weight. Humans will most likely be really tall and mega-sized to match the big planet. Even the oceans will be huge. Our oceans will look like little lakes compared to what Mega-Earth has in store for us. Humans need something close to 24 hours in a single day. Our bodies adjusted to it quite well, but it wouldn't affect us too much if the day had a few extra hours or a few hours less. We can't live on any other planet without wearing the proper gear. We wouldn't last more than a few seconds in places like Jupiter, Neptune, and Saturn. It's possible to last as long as you can hold your breath on Mars. The atmosphere is thin and the gravity is similar to ours, but you might freeze. Even though it's a red planet, it's actually very cold and has ice caps in the poles covered with carbon dioxide. The same's true for Mercury. You can only last there as long as you can hold your breath and be in the sweet spot between the sunrise and the sunset. Ancient civilizations wouldn't have been as diverse as they were on Earth, since the extreme terrains and conditions wouldn't have allowed for discovery and training. But eventually, as humans developed special technologies for certain areas, different cultures would emerge. Many animals would also evolve in specific and unique ways, but because of the planet's enormous size, isolation, and being on top of the food chain would let certain animals be around since the beginning of the planet without evolving. So it's possible that this mega-Earth might have ancient dinosaurs roaming around, and they'd be even bigger than the ones on Earth. And even though there's a high chance that some humans might be physically different than each other, there might even be more than one species of humans living on opposite ends of the planet. Because of the isolation, they evolved in their own ways according to their surroundings. Over the centuries, technological advancements would spread different cultures around, and we'd be more open to each other. Neanderthals and Homo sapiens once lived side by side and were considered as the two species of humans. Neanderthals were intelligent and used tools for hunting and drawing. Homo sapiens were survivors and wandered around to discover new land. There could be two dominant human species and other minor ones that live in certain areas on Mega-Earth. They'd be bigger, tougher, and faster than us. The ones who live by the trees would have elongated limbs to stretch out and swing from tree to tree. The ones that live in savannas will probably run really fast and have long legs for that. Countries and cities will be bigger than what we have on regular Earth. A country can be as big as Earth itself. The human population can reach tens of billions. Special transportation technology might be invented for people to travel from one continent to another. Covering those distances can take months or even years if using regular aircraft. High-speed trains that travel so fast over land and rocket-like planes going through the sky. Traveling through oceans will require extremely sturdy ships. Traveling through the Atlantic Ocean is already scary for many, so imagine going on a voyage across a body of water that's potentially 8 times the size of Earth. We're going to need a bigger boat. There'll be areas to avoid, like the red spot with its perpetual storms raging on, but the tourist industry might have some room for anyone who wants to see it. Living on such a huge planet is unlikely going to become a reality for most of us anytime soon, but scientists are already discussing moving to other planets to find a new home for humans.
You wake up, and a sharp smell of rotten eggs hits your nostrils. You look around wildly and realize the smell isn't coming from your mom's cooking downstairs. It's super hot, and there are giant red clouds churning in the sky. Yikes! You're on Venus! The planet is named after the ancient Roman deity of beauty and love, but sadly, its smell doesn't correspond with its name. The atmosphere of Venus is made up mainly of carbon dioxide, but thick clouds of sulfuric acid completely hide its surface from prying eyes. Sulfur has a really bad stench, which causes the surface of Venus to smell like rotten eggs. Gross! The atmosphere on the planet is also really hot and thick. The carbon dioxide traps a small amount of energy from the sun that reaches the planet's surface. This greenhouse effect has made Venus one of the hottest places in the solar system. So, the good news is, you wouldn't be able to smell the planet's stench, as humans can't survive on its surface. Well, that's a relief. Almost all other planets in our solar system only have a super small selection of different scents on their surface, unlike Earth. But what about our moon? The scent of the moon is similar to something called smokeless powder, which is a propellant used in firearms. Basically, the dust on the satellite smells exactly the same as when a shot is fired. Apollo 17's pilot Eugene Cernan says he could smell it straight after removing his suit from the spacecraft. But nobody's exactly sure why it smells like this, as there's zero similarity between the two substances. Smokeless powder is made up of a mixture of two things with very complicated names: nitroglycerin and nitrocellulose. Black powder, its older counterpart, is made of charcoal, saltpeter, and sulfur, which makes it smell in a very specific way, but not like rotten eggs, despite the sulfur content. Moon dust is made up of a bunch of things that primarily come from broken meteorites. This includes iron, magnesium, and calcium, but it doesn't contain either of the things in smokeless powder, or black powder either for that matter. And what's weirder is that moon dust samples brought back to Earth have been odorless. Experts say the smell could have been the dust reacting with oxygen or water inside the lander. The smell could also be due to the temporary release of charged particles from the sun that had become trapped in the dust. Mercury is the planet closest to the sun, but it doesn't really have a strong smell. This is because the atmosphere is so thin and scattered. Mars. Like Venus, it's another world that doesn't have the best scent ever. It's a good thing we can't breathe its air. The red planet smells like rotten eggs, again caused by sulfur. If human colonies did move to Mars, it looks like we'd have to burn a lot of scented candles to cover the smell. But the good news is that the sulfur quantities are pretty small, so the smell wouldn't be too overwhelming. Jupiter also has a whiff of eggs, but also smells a bit like it's been mixed with cleaning products. This is because its atmosphere is a mixture of hydrogen sulfide and ammonia. But what you smell basically depends on where you are in the planet's atmosphere. Some regions have higher concentrations of ammonia. This substance is used in a bunch of cleaning products here on Earth. So areas high in ammonia could have that strong burning stench of cleaning fluid. A lot of people also say that ammonia smells like a pair of dirty socks that haven't been washed in forever, so it's for sure best to avoid these parts of the planet. Other areas have a lot of hydrogen sulfide, and because it contains sulfur, these parts would also smell like rotten eggs. The third and final scent you'd find on Jupiter is bitter almonds, or marzipan, just like the kind your grandma puts on cakes around the holidays. This is in areas where a substance called hydrogen cyanide is most common. Jupiter is the biggest planet in our solar system. It's so big that it's 2.5 times larger than all of the other planets in the solar system combined. It's also the fastest spinning planet in our solar system. Next up, the ringed planet, Saturn. Its atmosphere is made up of about 96% hydrogen and 4% helium. Yes, that's the gas that makes your voice go all squeaky. Both hydrogen and helium are odorless, so Saturn probably doesn't have a strong smell. It does, however, contain traces of our good friend ammonia. That's the smelly sock gas. Saturn's atmosphere also has a bit of phosphine, which can sometimes smell like garlic or decaying fish. So there might be a slight bad stench in the air. The thickness of Saturn's atmosphere is only 37 miles. For comparison, our atmosphere here on Earth is almost 300 miles thick. Saturn also has some of the strongest winds in our solar system. They can reach a whopping 1,118 miles per hour. One of Saturn's moons is called Titan, and it has a super odd scent. Its atmosphere is made up of something called benzene, which has really weird effects if inhaled by us humans. It can make us feel dizzy and make our ears ring. It doesn't actually smell that bad though. Its scent is kind of like almonds. Now it's time to take a dive into Uranus. This gas giant has gotten itself a reputation as the smelliest planet in the entire solar system. There's a lot of stinky stuff floating around on the planet, and its upper atmosphere is made up mostly of hydrogen sulfide. Yep, that's the molecule that makes rotten eggs smell so nasty. But the temperatures are so severe on Uranus that you'd pass away even before you've had a chance to smell anything. Uranus's atmosphere is a staggering negative 392 degrees Fahrenheit. That's so cold that it would almost instantly freeze anyone. The final planet in our solar system is Neptune, and it's just as cold as Uranus, at negative 373 degrees Fahrenheit. Neptune also smells pretty bad. Some scientists say it smells like seaweed that's washed up on the shore. Others say again that it smells like rotten eggs because it contains a bunch of hydrogen sulfide molecules. But like on Uranus, you're not going to have time to take in the nasty smell. As the most distant planet from our sun, it's dark, freezing cold, and has supersonic winds. No one would be able to survive when faced with one of the icy hurricanes which are constantly raging on the planet. Neptune is the only planet in our solar system that's not visible to the unaided eye. Well, we've covered the planets, but what does space itself smell like? Space is mostly a vacuum, which means it doesn't actually contain any molecules, so there's basically nothing to smell. But some astronauts have actually said space smells a bit like fried meat or hot metal. This smell is most commonly reported in the first instance after the astronauts re-enter their spacecraft. They shut the airlock, repressurize, and then remove their helmets. But there are a bunch of theories suggesting that the meat smell isn't actually space. It's either from the equipment operating the airlock or from interactions between space particles and the spacesuits. Astronaut Tony Antonelli said that space definitely has a smell that's different than anything else. Talking about his fellow spacewalkers coming into the ship, another astronaut, Don Pettit, said he noticed that this smell was on their suit, helmet, gloves, and tools. One thing we definitely know that has a smell, though, is comets. If you could inhale a big whiff of a comet, it's likely going to make you feel lightheaded and maybe even sick. The odor from comets is like a mix of rotten eggs, old smelly socks, almonds, and it'll also have a hint of biology dissection lab. On the bright side, though, the presence of hydrogen sulfide and sulfur dioxide in the scent would block your sense of smell after the first sniff. So at least the stench wouldn't linger. But the bad news? Nearly all the ingredients that make up a comet's smell are toxic. So you're probably going to want to avoid coming into contact.